Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, hear you loud and clear.
Sounds good to me as well. Let's get a confirmation in the chat. Got it from Andrew. Audio, video, good. Thank you as always, Andrew. Sound is good. Welcome, everyone. Oh, change off that combine. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. Been a Topstep Performance Coach since June of 2023 and trading for the past 12 years in the futures markets for the past 5, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since May of 2023. I'm a performance coach here. I have 4 decades of experience in the futures market. I'm here to share some experience and knowledge and aid you to becoming a better trader.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. Market's making new all-time highs today. Making new all-time highs. Let's review the news real quick to see what was out today. As far as planned news goes, we did have ADP employment change coming in a little bit lower than expected, 146,000. What was forecast was 150,000. We had a services PMI number come out lower than expectations as well. But I don't think those numbers had any effect on the markets at all. Markets making new all-time highs in the Dow, the S&P, the Nasdaq. These markets are strong. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. These markets are very strong right now. Any other news you want to comment on, Coach?
I have no comment on news. I didn't watch it, so I won't comment.
Awesome. So we did have some comments out of Fed Chair Powell saying that the economy is in remarkably good shape, not just good shape, remarkably good shape. Market's been in the gym, I guess, and we can see that on the charts. The markets are kind of just going up and to the right now. Santa rally. We are in December, going into the end of the year. Do we just continue that rally? In the Nasdaq, we're less than 2% off of, we're right around 2% off of 22,000 in the Nasdaq, which sounds crazy, but markets are meant to go up. Markets are meant to go up.
Yeah, and they do. Even if you're struggling by trying to sell new highs, I've been there.
Same.
This can continue more than you have capital. I did that a few times. But remember, if you're trading equities, if there's no news that changes it suddenly, or it's going to go up, it's designed to do that.
Yep.
There is a large amount of money that comes to equities every month through pensions and 401ks and you name it. It's designed to go up. So if you're having trouble, and I see some people struggling, this sucks. Start to realize that it's very frustrating. I went through years of it, so just understand that and make adjustments.
Yep. That's all we can do. We got to trade the markets that we have and manage our risk in between. About 35 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts. To the downside, we had crude oil down 1.79%, soybean oil down 1.83%, and heating oil, our biggest percentage mover, to the downside at 2.21%. To the upside, we had the Nasdaq in the third spot, up 1.11%, silver up 1.12%, and micro Bitcoin, our biggest percentage mover, to the upside at 3.28%. To round out our big four, we have the S&Ps up 0.55%. We already talked about the Nasdaq. We already talked about crude and gold up 0.26%. I have a Nasdaq chart up here, Coach. We talked about the strong close we had yesterday. It was, if I don't remember who the trader was, but we had the comment: "Are we going to potentially see a gap up tomorrow with the strong close?" And said maybe not a gap up, but I think we both also said we may see new all-time highs tonight. And that's exactly what we got. We have the 30-minute open from last night. And it, they were buying it early and often. Buying it early and often. We left the 30-minute opening range.
And I short armed that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't short, but I short armed it. I feel like I lost money that I didn't. But hey, I'm only human.
Right. We got Todd saying, "Oh my God, was so easy today." Yeah, if you were a buyer, it's pretty easy. I bought the S&Ps today and took a loss. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But from last night's open, just a really strong start, set the low for the day on that first 30-minute candle. I'm pretty sure it was the low on the first 1-minute candle as well. And we never really looked back. Took VWAP a little bit, to leave that range. Price left on the next half an hour. But if we can see, Coach, we've pointed this out a little bit as well. On those first two candles, VWAP is kind of leaning towards leaving the range, right? It's like as soon as it breaks, it's going to go. And that's kind of what we got. Beautiful trend to the upside. A couple of tests of the regular trading hours, or sorry, the full session VWAP during the New York session open. But this was an opportunity to buy. We see some traders saying, these markets suck. Maybe you were looking to short. I'm looking at 30-minute candles here on the Nasdaq. Here's one 30-minute candle that's 30 points to the downside. Here's another one, 30 points. And these are 30-minute candles. About 30 points before we go in the opposite direction, which is tough. Maybe you don't trust markets that are just continuing to go up, and you're somewhat of a contrarian. It's possible to make money selling a market like this, but it is not an easy thing to do. And identifying where that flow is going to make your life maybe a little bit easier than trying to sell this.
And then you just nailed it Coach. We talk about VWAP a lot here. And what is really what is VWAP? I probably might stop using the term VWAP and use the full explanation. Volume weighted average price. Maybe this can help you. I wish I had this when I was selling in the late 90s, early 2000s, when it kept on doing this. If just looking at VWAP and using that 30-minute, show me where it closed under VWAP.
Not one time. Not once.
I don't know if this is going to aid you, but it sure aided me. I mean, I bought it and I short armed it, looking to get back in. That was poor trading on my part. But if this helps you, watch VWAP for a sign that the selling has failed, because it is volume weighted average price. So what is the volume? It's buying. It's above it. The buyers never relented.
Yep.
So, there's an old saying we use in basketball: you're either winning or you're learning. So learn from this. Like I said, I've been in trying to fade these moves. And it can be very frustrating. Two things: if you don't limit your your loss for the day, you're gonna blow out.
Coach, let's do a
And
little.
if you limit your loss to 50% of, yeah,
Go ahead. No, no. Finish that statement. I just wanted to finish that
okay.
statement.
If you lose half your account on a day like today, it's going to take a lot. I mean, a superhuman effort. So limit your loss. Go ahead,
Uh,
coach.
No, I wanted wanted to do a little bit of an activity. I just had a thought pop into my head. Some of the thoughts that you've
Mhm.
had when you've tried to short markets like these, because they're probably common phrases that contrarians have used. I know one that's in my mind. If you can put some in the chat, if you can think of some, uh, it can't keep going up is probably one of the prevailing thoughts of someone that keeps trying to sell this. It can. Um, a lot of times when we're selling markets like these. We're not paying attention to what the market says. And I think ultimately that's what we talk about here every day. Try to pay attention to what the market is telling you and get in line with it. Um, when you're shorting like something like this, from my experience, when I've done it, it's always been an ego thing, and I want to be right about a short. Um, Anne Marie just said, "I have thought that 1,000 times, literally." Yeah. Oh, it can't keep going up. If that's your only reason to take a short, it's probably not enough. Uh, if when that's been the basis for one of my trades, I don't know the exact numbers, but I could probably say it's a 5% probability that those trades are going to work out. Um, because I'm just not, I'm paying attention to what I want and not what the market wants. Uh, Mal Trader says, oh, it looks like it's slowing down. It's never slowing down. Uh, it's just continuing to go up. So uh, keep that in mind.
You know,
Again, go ahead, coach.
well, one other thing, and to add to that, when I had that trouble. The best advice I ever got from my mentor was, okay, just trade one side of the market. So if once you do that, and today, and you're looking at VWAP, and say, okay, I'm not going to I'm not selling it. Even if you didn't buy it, you didn't get your eyes ripped off. And and a days like today, you could get, you know, you could buy this at the one time and lose money. That's okay. I mean,
Coach,
your your trade location might be bad, but yeah,
you got a robot voice. Every time you try to give out some good information, the
can you hear
robots
me?
come and get you. Yeah, we got a little robot voice from you. So if you want to leave and come back,
Alright.
thanks. But yeah, really nice trend here. If we look at the moving averages, we look at these on the 30-minute here. The yellow moving average is the 20, purple is the 50, white is the 200. We've been above the 200 for the week. And we've seen this when we start to trend, the market holding that 20 moving average on the 30-minute and perfect wicks into it. I was on fast markets this morning. I'm going to switch over to the S&P. Uh, and some of us don't trade the overnight session. I do at times, but sometimes we don't, right? So going into the New York session, we were already up almost it's close to a percentage up by the time we got into the New York session. And a lot of times what we'll see, and we said it during fast markets as well, is this first 30 minutes may be somewhat of a consolidation. It doesn't mean that the move is over. But the market is digesting the overnight price action. Sometimes we'll see that overnight inventory adjustment. You'll hear Hogue talk about it all the time, where we do get a little bit of a sell off. But today, all they needed was a test of that VWAP. That was the correction. When we came in, the traders trading New York session decided they wanted to buy it as well. Um, and it's just about finding a place to buy it where you can limit your risk in this. Can you buy here and somehow get stopped out of a trade? Well, if you're buying at the highs of the New York session somewhere here, you might need a 50 point more than 50 point stop loss in order to stomach this price action, and that's the way you can buy markets that are making all-time highs and still lose, right? If your trade location is off, um, or your stops are a bit too tight, uh, you're going to have a hard time trading markets that are just making all time highs and trending. For me, and we talked about it during fast markets. I still don't have a trade signal to take along here for more than a scalp, right? If it's a range bound trade, we see VWAP pretty flat for the first half an hour of the New York session. If I'm going to take a trade here, my trades need to be somewhere near the lows of the range. And my conservative targets have to be the high of the range. Now, could I hold for longer? Potentially. But we can see the overlapping price action until VWAP decided to choose a direction. And once it started to tick upwards, we see we're making higher lows. And by the time VWAP leaves the range, these are really nice buys. We get one more test of the New York session VWAP right around 1:30 Eastern time, and a really nice trade from there. Still 100 points from this test. Now, this takes extreme patience to wait 4 hours to take a trade. But at this point, there's clear direction, in my opinion, about where the market is going. Coach, you back?
Yeah,
We
am I
still
a
got the
robot
robots.
still?
Yeah, still got the robots. Still a robot, coach. Want to try it one more time? They're trying to take my guy out.
Well, let me try one more time, and I'll be back.
All right, sounds good. Thanks. Really nice trend here. Okay, so what do we do going into tomorrow? For me personally, I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to look at a daily chart. We had above a 1% move. I'm not the trader that likes to buy the high for a breakout, so I'd be looking at somewhat of a retracement. I'm looking at today's initial balance high, which was right around 21,464, or 50% of this daily range that we had here, which is at 21,427. The markets tomorrow may present some completely different information, right? We may see some profit taking on this move. We may see some downside, and we got to remember that we're day trading, right? I can't just blindly buy it if the personality for the day doesn't say that. So I'm just going to wait. But we are less than 2% from, or a little over 2% away from 22,000. Coach Robert and I were talking in the chat, do we see 22,000 at the end of this week? He said, definitely by the end of the year, he sees it, but we don't get paid to, assume what the markets are going to do. We have to trade the markets that are in front of us. So, really strong trends on all time frames. And especially with lower volume, not markets that I want to short for a very long time. All right, I'm going to go over to the S&Ps. Like I said, I bought the S&Ps and took a loss on it today. And then right after, someone said in the comments, they've never seen me take a winning trade. So I got to make sure I put one on tomorrow for the chat. But we had same idea here, and here's where, preempting along before it meets my criteria ends up as a stop out. I took a long in the S&Ps at 60,000, 78.50. I took a long at 78.50. With that idea, right? If we see extensions outside of the range, fade the extremes of the range, which was the right trade, and it's a trade that I would take again. It's just a percentage of the time that it stopped out, right? Let's see, if I took this one, where we get an extension out of that range, took a long, I have a trade that's 5 points in my favor. Not the biggest trade, but we also know that this VWAP is flat, and the market hasn't chosen a direction yet. I took it on the second test, and this is personally why I don't love range trading, because you don't know when that range is going to break, right? I got stopped out here. My stop was at 73 half. So I got long at 78 half. My stop was 2 ATRs on the 3-minute chart. If I'm reviewing this, range bound trade, wider stops, I should have gone with a 1 ATR stop on a 30-minute chart, which would have put me way out of the way for the markets and ultimately been somewhere near the bottoms, right? I bought this market, decent trade location. I love the trade location. I would take that trade again. Stop placement was just a little bit too tight. And we can see, that was an entry 4 points off the low. But you have to put the full puzzle together, right? Trade location, timing, the quantity of contracts that you're trading and where your stop is the full puzzle right now. I was missing a piece, and that was the stop location. get stopped out, losing trade, and that's okay. It's going to happen. But really nice move eventually in the S&Ps as well. Took a little bit longer to get going, and doesn't trend as nicely percentage-wise as the Nasdaq, but really nice moves here as well. Coach, let's try it one more time.
All right, checking. One,
No,
2, 3.
nope. It's still choppy. Still choppy, coach.
All right, well, I'll sign off. I'll restart my computer.
All right. Coach Paul's out for now, but we will continue going. I don't think it's a headset battery. I think he plugs it in. New all-time highs though in the S&P on this contract, 6102. New all-time highs in the Nasdaq as well. And again, not markets I see slowing down really anytime soon. Pretty strong here. Let's see if we got any questions in the chat. Have I ever used volume footprint? Yeah, I use it all the time actually. If I could show, I don't have Quantower open right now, so it's going to take a little bit of time to load. But my daily levels actually come from footprint charts. You can see anytime if you ever seen the Topstep daily levels page, and I'll put the link in the chat to that. But my daily levels, you'll see a number, and then next to it, it either usually says a buy side or a sell side imbalance. Those are coming from footprint charts. Now, I don't use every single one of them. I kind of use my discretion on which ones I think are important. But yeah, I use footprint charts all the time. Brandon says, how long did it take you to become consistent? I think that word consistent is interesting, because sometimes, a lot of times when people think consistent, they think consistently profitable. I would say for myself, it took at least 5 years because I'm a very hard-headed person, and it takes me a lot of time to realize that, or it took me a lot of time to realize that I needed to seek out help with trading, right? And I didn't have all the answers for myself. But I think of consistency as consistency in your process, and doing the same thing over time. Now, that consistency is going to ultimately lead to consistent results, but it took me about 5 years to 5 years to even decide that I needed to listen to someone, and then probably about another 2 or 3 where I was just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to do anything else. Not being a smartass with this question, but Coach Jay, when you say you watch the angle of VWAP, are you measuring the degree or the slope of the line? Maybe I'm being a dumbass here. Are those different? I'm looking at the angle, right? The angle of the line, right? So it's flat here. I consider this pretty flat, right? It's not 0 degrees. But any VWAP that's like 45 degrees, anything nearing that, I'm looking at that as a trending market. But that's a good question. That's a good question, Rufus. Yeah, we'll ask Coach Paul about the pivots when we get him on, maybe tomorrow. He should be back tomorrow. But yeah, really nice move here in the equity markets. Dow making new all-time highs as well. I know we have some Dow traders in here. Dow was interesting today. If there was a market that looked like it was affected by some of the pre-market news, it looked like the Dow, where we had some volatility here. We can see obviously this big volume spike before the markets open. And if there was a market that had a two-sided trade, it was the Dow today, right? You could have shorted the Dow and had a decent trending move, right? This is almost a 0.5% to the downside, before we ultimately made new all-time highs as well. Actually, did we make new all-time highs? Yeah, we did, by a couple ticks. By a couple of ticks. All right. I want to switch over. Actually, let's go to gold really quick. And I want to talk about some of the trades that we spoke about on the scouting report last night. If you remember what was on there, Coach Paul was looking at the yen, looking at the bonds that presented some really good trades. Gold had a little bit of a range extension today. Still pretty choppy. If we look at the moving averages on the 30-minute, they're kind of wrapped around each other. The 20 is starting to get a little bit of a separation. here, we're starting to see this 20 moving average kind of break out of this consolidation here. So we may be getting a trend in gold. Coach Paul and I talked about this yesterday that, when we see this consolidation, and this has been almost 10 days now, for this long, eventually we get an explosive move. Who knows what side it's going to be on? I'm potentially leaning to the upside, but we will see what gold presents to us. Where do you get the scouting report? So we just talk about it here at the end of the session. Once we do a review of all the markets, we'll talk about, hey, well, what are you looking at to potentially take a trade tomorrow or throughout the rest of the week? If there's enough interest, we may turn that into something, right? Maybe we turn it into maybe I tweet it out every day, right? Here's our scouting report for the next day. Maybe we turn it into something on the TopstepTV webpage. So if there's interest in that, let us know, and we can potentially do that. Can we get a reset? Only if you give me one first. If you pay for a reset for me, I'll pay for one for you. And that kind of defeats the purpose. Let's see here. Crude oil, we'll go to crude oil real quick. Crude still very much in this range that we've been talking about, higher time frame range. Calling the highs of the range 72, the lows of the range 67. And like we talked about yesterday, presenting opportunities to fade the extremes of these ranges, right? Where these are still sometimes $2 moves in crude oil, which I'll take, right? You have to identify where we are in that range, right? Are we near the highs? If we're near the highs of this range, I'm probably not looking to buy crude because the upside is somewhat limited. But then again, you don't want to just short blindly either, because do you have a 1% drawdown in your trading plan, right? So trade location is still going to matter, but crude still doing this range bound thing, presenting some really nice opportunities. We had some big selling coming in crude in this 3-minute candle. I tried to look and see if there was any news or anything that kind of caused this move. I know we had inventories out earlier today, but that didn't seem to do too much. But one thing we've talked about before, and framing out the news candles, that applies in other markets as well, right? We have crude oil inventories out. We can see, look at the volume, right? So the volume is fairly low. This is the crude oil open right here. Pretty low volume, but obviously the market is waiting for the news, right? Just like we would see on FOMC days, right? The equity markets are probably going to have pretty low volume until that news print comes out. Same thing in crude oil today, and you can kind of consider this the open, where the volume comes in. Now, how does the market respond to that inventory news? Obviously, selling it off. And maybe this is your trade location now, where I can get short somewhere in here as this VWAP is trending lower, risk the highs of that news candle, and that's a beautiful trade. Now we're near the lows of this range. Do I just blindly buy it? I don't, but if we start to base kind of like this price action here off of the support, decent opportunity to buy and go the other way in crude. What backlog do you have for your charts? Does it slow your charts for having more than 5 days? If you're talking about Topstep X charts, I don't think it works that way. I think if you zoom out, it just has it. For Quantower charts, I have them. Depends on the chart. If it's a 30-minute chart, I usually have it set to 3 months. If it's a shorter time frame chart, I have it set to a month. All right, so there's crude oil. Pretty nice move. I'm going to be looking to buy crude somewhere near these lows, the lows of this range. These are trades that if I take, I'm probably expanding the time horizon on the trade, right? It's not going to be a quick scalp. It might take all day to get to the other side of the range, but we've seen it do it so many times that if it presents a decent enough opportunity, I'll take advantage of it. Let's see here. So we had some trades that we talked about, or some markets that we were talking about on that scouting report last night, which Coach Paul was here to kind of go through this. But let's go over to, we're just going to go through the 3 markets that were on the scouting report yesterday. why they were on the scouting report and how you could have traded them. So the first one, the Japanese yen. I'm going to be on slow markets with Dakota tonight, and there is some Bank of Japan news out tonight as well, so we may get some more volatility in the yen. But here is first. Let's frame out last night's open, and then here's the Japanese yen here, kind of topping out. Coach Paul was saying he's looking for a potential short in the yen. And why? Because we had on the daily chart the 200 moving average. We can see we rejected right at that 200 moving average yesterday, and the yen has been under it for almost 2.5 months now. And that strong rejection in a market that has been in a higher time frame downtrend, kind of dictates a potential short trade if it sets up. Now, if we look at the 30-minute chart, and it's funny, I took losses on these trades, just not executing well. Clicking the button, I accidentally closed out of the trade when I didn't want to for a loss, and then I put a position back on. It was just poor execution on my part, and why we see some of the losses for the yen trade. The 30-year trade that I took, we just got stopped out, but we can see that urgency trade that we talk about here. First 30 minutes, volume leaving the range, price leaving the range as well. We do get some tests of the range, and this is why you'll hear us say, make a new high for once we get the signal, make a new high on the day for your stop. We can see that was out of the way. You'll hear Coach Paul talk about two ATRs on the 30-minute would have been, way up here, which was out of the way, I think, for the entire session. Yeah, we never made that high. But beautiful trade overnight. If you were in this, a 1% move to the downside. Eventually, we did bounce, pretty strong bounce off those lows and retraced about half of the move. But anybody take this yen trade? Anyone take this yen trade? Again, if you're trading the dollar yen, it's $6.25 a tick. But I mean, to me, this is one of the cleaner charts. Obviously, the Nasdaq was really nice, but if you don't trade equities, there's a ton of opportunity out there. You took it in practice last night, Rich. Nice. It was a great trade. Great trade. The one thing here is, where do you set your profit targets? We have what looks like some support down here, so maybe you go here. I know Coach Paul's been talking about, taking these trades and looking for a 2-to-1, which is a great idea also, right? The way I see some of these overnight trades, especially because most of my trading happens during the New York session, I'm looking at these to kind of just build a little bit of a buffer for the New York session. It's a nice feeling, right? You take a trade overnight on a setup that presents itself. I wake up and have a couple $100 already made for the day. I feel like I don't have to force a decision during that New York session if one doesn't present itself, right? I can be a lot more patient, knowing that I did some of my work already the night before. Coach Hoop says you do the same. Yeah, it's a nice feeling. If you haven't done it, I've started probably more so this year, implementing some overnight trades. But it's a nice feeling to kind of have a base before you go into that New York session. The yen and the Swiss are minis. Yeah, these are minis. I think so. We do have some micro. Yeah, you can see them here. We do have some micro currency futures. I don't think there's a micro yen. We got the micro Aussie, the micro euro, and British pound. But $6.25 a tick. I think on the risk here with a one lot, 2 ATRs, I was risking probably $250. And to the low, that was a over $1,000 move on a one lot. And do you catch the whole thing and sell it and get out at the bottom? Maybe, probably not, but a ton of opportunity in a market like this. No micros for the yen. There we go. Someone told me last night I was saying that wrong. It's the N, Japanese N, but there's a Y there, so I'm saying the Y. 6J is moving up through a channel since mid-November. It's more obvious on the hourly chart. Let's see. Yeah, it's been moving up, but we've seen some of these moves before, where these look like short covering rallies, right? If we go out even further on a day time frame, what this market's in a downtrend, right? And there are some bounces here, and here's July. We know what happened in July with the Bank of Japan, into August, with their rate decision. But even that, this market has been under heavy sell pressure for years. So when it came to this technical level, this 200 moving average, and we get a rejection, it's a decent short. Uh, you know, do we continue downwards or do we have, some more short covering coming in? It's yet to be seen. But for day trades, I think this is presenting some really nice opportunities. Uh, let's see. What else do we got here? Let's go to the 30 year. Let's go to the 30 year. Uh, Pretty much the same trade. Now we see the 30 year here, right? Rejecting at that daily 200 moving average. And this is what we're kind of seeing in the yen as well. Uh, we had the rejection. Now, do we get continuation or does the market cover above this and we get a move to the opposite side? So the 30 year was a really nice trade last night as well. But we can see the kind of complete reversal of this. This is one that I got stopped out on. Here's the trade here. I took my short, and this is my fault, guys, and this is why sometimes we don't preempt trades. I took a short in this consolidation. What was wrong, or what made this a B trade instead of an A plus trade? To you guys, what made this a B trade instead of an A plus trade? Rejection of the lows. VWAP. There we go, David. It never left the range. It never left the range. No confirmation, right? Price went, VWAP didn't leave. I said, you know what? I like it. I'm going to take it. And I got stopped out here because my stop is going to be make a new high. Could have gone two ATRs. I think if I went two ATRs, yeah, if I went two ATRs on the 30-minute, I was way up here and wouldn't have gotten stopped out. Um, but it is what it is, right? Got stopped out on this trade. Eventually goes in my favor. Once we had VWAP leaving the range, it was a much clearer trade because the market chose a direction. I was kind of preempting that direction, which is fine. But you accept the fact that you didn't get the confirmation for the trade, and this may be one that you get stopped out on. Um, you know, how many times do you do that, or what is the risk allotment that you give to trades like that? Um, I'm not going to put on a ton of size if I'm preempting a trade, right? I'm going to go with a one lot. Um, if I get the confirmation, I might lean into this trade. If I waited here, I might have taken it with a three lot because I'm getting a higher probability and I want to put as much risk behind high probability trades as I can, right? The lower probabilities, if it's a C plus setup, a D setup, ideally I don't even want to take it. But if I'm going to take it, I'm going to take it with minimal risk. But if it's an A plus trade, I want to lean into those trades as much as possible. And we can see, we had before we ultimately got a bounce, we had a 5% move to the downside. Then we had that news come out early in the morning, and then a really nice, trend move to the upside. A lot cleaner. Someone actually pointed out to me in the Coach J chat. We talk about these opening range trades. If we look at the treasuries on at the equity open, here's a 3-minute chart, and of course, it's going to look a little choppy in the 3 minutes because these markets trade so much volume that on its shorter time frames, we're not getting that much price action. But here's a 3-minute open for the 30 year, and that's one of the cleanest examples of an opening range breakout trade that we've seen all day, really. So again, bringing up other markets because there are other markets to trade. Again, Coach Paul and I said it yesterday, but the money is green. Whether you're trading the Nasdaq or you're trading lean hogs, right? If you can get the trade right, you can read the charts technically. You can apply them anywhere, and sometimes some opportunities are easier than others. Randy says, "Is this hindsight capital?" Hindsight review of your trading, but hopefully what this helps us with is reading and reacting. In a paragraph, what's an A plus trade? I'll give you what my A plus trade is, Randy, but for me, and Coach Paul has said it as well, have about a 4-point checklist for your trades. Uh, for me, I'll give you what my A plus trade is, and we'll go back to the 30-minute. We have a range established. We have price leaving the range and volume leaving the range. A plus, take the trade. Right, this is an A plus. Right here, it's maybe a B because I don't have all of those characteristics checked off. Now there are other things that I personally add to it. Time of day. If I'm trading the equity markets and it is lunchtime where we historically get less volume, that might decrease the probability or decrease the grade that I'm giving that setup, right? If it's a low volume time and I'm looking for a momentum trade and I'm taking it, to me, it's automatically a B trade if I'm going to take it because the likelihood and things happen, right? We can get volume through lunch in the equities, but the likelihood of that volume coming in and continuing the push is lower. So default, that's going to be a B setup if I take it. So again, those are trades that I'm not going to take with a bunch of size. I'm going to set my stop reasonably and go from there. You shouldn't trade news regardless, but I just mean Coach J framed out a trade off the open. News was 30 minutes later. Yeah. So there was news. There was news out at 9 Central today, right? Yeah, I think it was this candle here. Um, you know, yeah. Ideally, you don't want to be holding a trade into news. Especially so the way I look at it, let's say the news was out and I wanted to take the trade before, right? Because uh, the Treasury markets open up a little bit earlier than the equities. It's actually, I think it's 8 a.m. Eastern time, 7 Central. So this is the open here. Let's say I have a trade, I get long here before the news, and I have a trade that's already in my favor, and my stop is down here. Depending on the market, because the Nasdaq can get very thin, we can see a 50-point move. If there are markets that I'm going to hold trades through news, it's usually the Treasury markets, because to me they trade so well level to level that, and they're pretty thick on the order books, right? They, a thin order book in the 30-year, you might have 200 up, 200 down. So I can probably get a fill at the price that I want to get filled on a stop run or a quick move like this. But if I have a trade that's already in the profit, the one thing I'm going to do is, let's say I got long here, I have a trade that's already in the profit before the news. I'll trail my stop up to somewhere in the profit, maybe to break even, and I'll hold it there, right? In a Treasury trade. Yeah, ideally you don't want to. The one thing I don't want to do is if we're a minute away from news and the market is trading and I'm not in a trade, or I'm in a trade and the market is trading right around my entry, I'll just get out. Because at that point it feels a lot like a 50-50, and I don't want to put money behind 50-50 probabilities. And Sturdy Gentleman just said it right. Better to be holding a trade than trying to get in on release. Yeah, because you know your fill, especially a lot of us are probably trading the Nasdaq here. Your fill on empty order books in the Nasdaq, even on a sim account. I've done this before, just as a test, and taken a trade right as FOMC was getting released, and had like a 15 tick slippage on my order in the Nasdaq, on a sim account. Now imagine doing that on a live account. Uh, that's half of some people's stop loss, and how do you control your risk there? Uh, all right, what else we got here? We got 15 minutes left. When do you go to your 3-minute setups? Usually during session opens. So the equity open 9:30 Eastern time, I'll switch over to a 3-minute chart usually. And the reason I'm switching over during that time is usually more volume. So we'll get a move faster. And I want to try to get in as early as possible. But if we look at the Nasdaq today, right, the 3-minute opening range became the 30-minute opening range. I'm pretty sure. Right, but then we got to put the whole puzzle together. We had a huge move overnight, so that quick move. If we have small ranges overnight, I'm usually expecting trend during the New York session. If we have trend overnight, I'm usually expecting consolidation, at least in the beginning of the New York session. Now, in the Nasdaq, we had a 50-point range for the first hour. Do I think we're going to stay within that 50 points the whole session? Probably not. But this tells me to be patient. I am going to be trading tonight. I'm going to be looking at the yen. Let's look at the calendar for what we have here. We have Japanese foreign stock investment and Bank of Japan speech as well. This is right around the time slow markets are starting. So I don't know that I want to be in a position, but if something presents itself, I'll be trading. I'll be looking at the yen. I'll be looking at the equity markets as always. And that's about it. And NSlug, will you run this setup off candles that print large volume throughout the day? Yeah. So let's see. Actually, let's go down to a shorter time frame. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. James Slay, I saw your question about silver, so I'll take a look at that as well. Let's look at this. Right. So we have the Nasdaq here. We have this big spike of volume in the middle of the day. This is 12:20 Eastern time. So I'll do this. I'll frame out this candle. I'll attach VWAP to it and see how the market responds since that volume printed. Now, same idea. It's a pretty flat line, so I don't want to enter anywhere near this VWAP, but extensions give me an opportunity to take a trade, right? To the upside, if VWAP doesn't go with it, that's an opportunity for a quick scalp short. And this is why sometimes you'll see me take trades that are counter trend in a short time frame, because this is an extension outside of this range after we saw volume, higher volume with no follow through, right? It's not sustainable. Right, we get a random volume spike that if you look at the time, look at the candles near this spike here, right? Everything's pretty low volume, and then we get a random spike, and it's not sustainable. We go back to low volume. This to me presents an opportunity for a quick scalp to the downside. Now, this is a 40-point move in the Nasdaq in about 15 minutes. I'll take those trades, but it has to be this setup. If we had some continuation volume and volume was building and VWAP was leaving the range, then that's not a short. It's probably a better long. All right. And there's a couple of examples of that, right? Here's some pretty high volume here at these lows. I think this was the VWAP test. Same thing here, right? VWAP leaves this range. I'm not fading the extremes of it. All right. Yeah, I'm expecting slow markets to be pretty good tonight. Dakota had an amazing Nikkei trade last night. Made like 11 grand trading the Nikkei last night, which was pretty awesome. Charles Chapman, in the old pit days, brokers had 3 minutes to fill a market order from the time received from the customer. That is why 3-minute charts are the best. That's pretty awesome. I didn't know that. Let's see here. Silver. Yeah, same idea here, right? Silver opens. It's that metal open, so it's what 8:20 Eastern time. It's a beautiful trade. Beautiful trade. Again, we share these setups all the time. Hopefully, for the understanding that this technical setup applies to whatever market you want to trade. What did we look at? The silver open, VWAP, the range, same trade. This is an amazing trade in silver. It's almost a 3% move off of that setup, which silver is, I think it's $25 a tick. It's a lot of money there. A lot of money there. Silver, pretty expensive contract for Topstep accounts. So if you want to trade the micros, SIL, they are a fifth of the size. Do I have my own X account? I do. I don't post that much on there. Maybe I need to get a little bit better at that. But I will put the link in the chat to my Twitter account if you want to follow there. One thing you try to create your personality right online. One thing I do is throughout the month, right halfway through the month, we post or I'll post the monthly VWAPs for the equity markets, and it usually presents some pretty good trade opportunities. But I just put that in the chat there. Let's see. Let me get back to Discord. Any other questions? CL Trader, I just saw your question. What's a good VWAP to use on TradingView? I think there's just the drawing tool. I just use if when I use TradingView charts, I just use the VWAP anchored VWAP drawing tool, um, and go from there. Tachi, great comment. Let's hit those likes. Get those likes up. I think our views are down because the stream wasn't listed prior to, but that's cool. I want to thank all 255 of you, 250 of you for hanging out today. Any other questions you guys have in the chat, let me know. Or any other markets we want to review. Obviously, micro Bitcoin. We'll do this one for Coach Paul. Traded over 100,000 again today, at least for a quick second. The house account or Dakota took a short in this, which I don't hate. Right? If we look at the higher time frame range, he's taking a short near some resistance. The moving averages are kind of wrapped around each other, so just like we've seen in Crude, right? Any extensions away from these moving averages are giving us an opportunity to fade the extremes. And taking a short up here near this major psych level, 100,000, turned out to be a pretty good trade. Micro Bitcoin still kind of consolidating a little bit. Obviously, it's going to follow the spot price, which I think is still under 100,000. But a great markets trade as well, 50 cents a tick. Not going to cost you a whole lot unless you're trading, 15 lots. But really great markets trade. Justin Church. This is a funny one. I'll address this. Sure. Can we talk about the house account being terrible? And can you admit that they aren't good traders? Well, I'm never going to say that I'm not a good trader. I give ideas to the house account. We have Dakota, who's number 2 on the leaderboard. He gives ideas to the house account. We have usually someone on that leaderboard is giving their ideas there. What I'll say to you is try to trade by committee with 4 trader friends that you know. Has the process been perfect? It hasn't, right? And you heard MP on TopstepTV today talk about, do we continue this going into 2025? I think anyone who's contributing to that process, the answer for us is going to be yes, because we want it to work out, because we understand how, interesting of a thing it can be and how successful it can be if it does work out. But try trading by committee, right? Where you're getting 4 different people with different trading styles, different views of the markets to agree on an idea most times. It's a hard thing to do. So I don't think anyone who puts in ideas on that account is a bad trader at all. I'd say the exact opposite, actually. And in that, I think we're all also very opinionated people in what we do, and I think you have to be, because you have to have some confidence in what you do in order to place trades. And sometimes when those opinions clash, we get losing results. But the house account process, I love being a part of it. You don't see anyone else doing it, and there's probably a reason. But it's okay to be different sometimes. And also, and I mentioned this to MP as well, that time frame that most of the house account trades are being placed in may not always be the best time frame for the traders that are submitting trades. So we're looking at that process on how we can improve it. But I think Andrew says, who cares about the house account? Let them trade. Exactly. I saw some traders in the chat say, don't get rid of the house account. I need my fade indicator. Right. That's always an option too. But as long as you're making money, and the one thing I'll say, and no one should be following the trade ideas of the house account. If there's someone that you like on TopstepTV, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, don't follow their trades, follow the way they get to decisions. And if you're new in your trading journey, the goal should be to have the same fluency in your trade idea that some of the other traders have, right? I want to be as fluent in my trade process as possible. I want to know what I'm looking for, where I'm looking for it, what it's going to look like when it wins, when it loses. And I think most of the people on Topstep TV are giving you that. And that should be the goal for all of us, right? I want to know exactly what my plan is and stick to it every single time. But I think that is it for me. We got about 5 minutes left, but my partner in crime is not here. So I kind of feel like I'm trying to fill time, but I want to thank everyone for joining. Actually, let's look at some notes before we go here. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. And if you guys have any last questions, let me know. Going to drop the same links that we did yesterday for the 5K club. That is that one there. If you've taken more than $5,000 in payouts from Topstep, you can join the 5K club. MP, I asked him about different tiers of the payout club, and he said that's going to be coming out soon. So for right now, the 5K club, you get a hat and a pin. For now, those can only be shipped in the US, but there are going to be tiers coming out, right? So a 10K club, 50K club, which I think is pretty cool, right? It's like prestige if you play Call of Duty, right? You keep leveling up the more you take payouts, and you know it's nice enough to just get the payout, right? A 50K payout. But if Top Step is going to give you a gift for that as well, I think that's pretty cool. So, what if I've tanked 5K in XFA profits? Can I still join? There's a different club for that. Um, I've heard Jack talk about Club DLL. Maybe I don't know if there's a gift for that. Maybe some emotional support, but or Discord. Here's the gift for the you lost 5K in payouts. Discord. Join one of the Discord channels, Discord classes. The coaches, Coach Hoop, Coach Ray, Coach Vince are giving classes every day in Discord. That's where the I lost a 5K XFA club meets. Tiana, yes, I'm anchoring VWAP usually to the session open, right? Market opens. And the way I'm marking out those ranges is, you could do it anyway. You could use just a horizontal line and just put a line at the top and a line at the bottom. You could use a rectangle tool. You could use a fib tool. Just anything that's going to mark out the high and the low of a candle. I lost the 5K club. You get a propeller hat. That's pretty funny. I don't see any other questions for now. Thank you all for joining. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you, Andrew, as always, for sending over questions. I will be on Slow Markets with Dakota tonight at 8:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Central, trading up some of these currencies. But we do have classes in Discord. Today's Wednesday, so I believe Coach Hoop is doing class right after we get off of here. And then we have Coach Ray at 6 p.m. and Coach Vince at 7 p.m. Central Times. And then, of course, Deanna with the London Open tomorrow at 2:30, 3:30 Central Time, 3:30 Central Time. If I don't see you for Slow Markets, I will see you on Topstep TV tomorrow with Jake Ricci, which I'm pretty excited for that. He's been trading really well. So should be a good segment. Trade well, manage your risk. Don't do anything crazy. And don't be in a rush to success. Takes time. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.